Jackson 5 for you.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I suppose a lot on their success is going to depend upon how much money they've got to hire a decent band to be the backing band.
I suppose you're right, yeah,
Yeah.
because they won't have any of the original musicians, will they? You know, they'll have gone off and done other things elsewhere over the years.
Exactly, great song, though.
The first one I remember was ABC.
Yeah.
ABC,
Simple
it's
as-
easy as 1, 2,
That's
3.
what I've still got it, actually. It still comes on my in the car, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, well, I've got like a couple of thousand songs that I just keep revolving.
That's how easy it can be.
You don't have to sing the whole thing.
Yeah. Now then.
I've got a couple of things to ask you about.
Okay.
Have you seen the pictures in the papers today about Ross Barkley and his cuts and bruises?
I have, yeah.
Spotted for the first time since his bar bust-up.
Indeed.
Wearing sunglasses when he arrived for training.
Yes.
And apparently the police are still investigating the story.
He's been quite noble about that, don't you think?
Noble?
Yeah.
How do you mean?
Well, in the sense that he's not reported it to the police and he's not tried to make a big deal of it, and he's not played the old superstar footballer, you can't, attack me and all that kind of stuff.
Well, maybe he's got something to hide.
I think it's far more likely that in the sort of code of honour amongst, men of that age in Liverpool, they've just decided that, you don't do that sort of thing. Well, yeah, maybe something like that. I don't know.
Well, it might be a mate of his that punched him.
Doesn't want to talk to the busies. You know what I mean? Hey,
Well, that's not exactly setting a great example for the community. Is it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's the way they work things out.
Yeah, right.
Now, you were telling me earlier about a mutual colleague of ours who
Indeed.
sadly has passed on.
Dennis Cassidy, right?
Now, I knew Dennis very well.
Yeah, he's 81 years of age, and he basically started a company called Cassidy and Lee.
That's right.
Which, for those of you who don't know what that is, was a very famous news agency.
Yes.
Because around the country, and I'm only saying this not to you, but to the
Sure.
people who don't know.
Sure.
There are different news agencies in different areas which
Yes.
are specialists in that particular area.
Yeah.
And in the old days of Fleet Street, you used to use them to not only recruit young journalists, but to get information on stories which were happening in their patch and all that. I mean, it was a massive business. It's slightly changed now, I suppose,
It has
because
changed,
of the way the media has changed. But most of them are still going in one way or another.
They are. I mean, for instance, you sent me an obituary, and I noticed it's written by a chap called Chris Johnson.
Yeah.
Now, Chris ran Mercury in Liverpool,
Right.
and I presume he still does.
And Mercury
for
was a
years.
very successful agency, wasn't it?
Well, crikey. I mean, during the things like the Toxteth riots and all that kind of stuff, they'd have 12 or 15 people on the ground.
Yeah.
These were big. Southwest News in Bristol, do you remember?
Southwest News, absolutely.
That was a very big one.
Whites up in Sheffield.
White Sheffield, Solent down in Southampton, and Cassidy and Lee were based in Guildford.
Yeah.
But they moved out, actually, to a smaller town where the tunnel runs through on the A3. You went through it the other night.
That's right.
The
Godalming, that sort of way?
that sort of way, but it's not actually Godalming. But anyway, the point is that Dennis has died at 81. Now, what Dennis did was he realised that you needed a bit of solidarity against the might of Fleet Street, because what Fleet Street would often do is, and you and I must have been guilty of it. I mean, I was a news editor for 5 years, and I was processing these invoices all the time. You always wanted to pay them less than they were claiming for the stories,
right?
Because you only had a set budget.
Although there was a bit of a game that went on, wasn't there? Because,
all the time.
They would read the story in the paper, and sometimes more than one agency would file on a particular story, and they would say, that's our copy, and you would say, no, it isn't.
It's from
and
somewhere
in the end,
else or
sometimes
something
it was
like that.
easier to pay them than it was to argue with them.
Yeah, and anyway, that all went on. So what Dennis did was he started an organisation with people like Chris Johnson from Mercury and I can't remember who ran Southwest News now. I think it was a few of them over the years.
Well, it was Ted Young's son, wasn't it?
Oh, that's right. It was, yeah. Sid Young's son.
Sid Young's son.
Sid
Sorry,
Young's son,
Ted,
that's
which
right.
I think was it Ted Young?
I'm not. No, it's Sid Young's son, but it wasn't Ted. But anyway, the point of the story is, and he formed an organisation called NAPA, National Association of Press Agencies.
Yes.
So I got invited as a chief guest one year to their dinner, which was in, I think it was in Guildford actually, because Dennis was the president. So I go down there, check in a hotel and all that. Go down there and
they were always quite good hosts, weren't they?
Oh, they're very good hosts, yeah. But there was a difference between the sort of organisations that Dennis ran and these guys who were like one-man agencies in Northampton. You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyway, I go down, address the floor, and you're all doing a brilliant job, well done, all that kind of stuff. I'm just about to sit down when the bloke from the one-man agency in Northampton gets up and swears at me. He'd had too much to drink.
It's a very bizarre thing, this. But I'm going to let you finish your story.
Right, yeah.
I had a very similar thing happen to me, but I'll tell you later.
Yeah. So he was intoxicated, and he swears at me, I said, who's that? He said, it's me. I said, what's your problem? Dennis said, oh, no, come on, Fred, or whatever his name was. No, never mind, not Dennis, you're sitting next to that ponce, all this go. And it was all about money.
Yeah.
It was all about, you never pay us, you don't pay us enough. And all
he was ripping us off.
And then about half a dozen others suddenly got up and started...
Empowered by the drink.
Yeah, that's right,
This is bizarre, because I had the exact same experience, right, in Edinburgh, funnily enough, when I was running the Mirror.
Yeah.
And I thought, rather foolishly, as I'm sure you did, that I was being invited as a result of my incredible sort of knowledge of the Fleet Street business, and also my charm and wit and all the rest of it.
I thought they were going to greet me as a giant at Fleet Street, you know what I mean, and stand in awe of me.
In fact, they invited you into the Lion's Den.
They attacked me. So after taking about 3 or 4 minutes of insults from 2 or 3 guys, I started hitting back.
Right.
So it became a right old shouting match, with Dennis trying to get in the middle. And then I turned and I said, you old buffoon, sit down, and all this kind of stuff,
Quite right.
And, but anyway, the strangest thing was... At the end of the night, when a lot more drink had been taken, it was all, I didn't mean it personally, and all that.
Because they're terrified you're going to blackball them.
Yeah, exactly, and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, the point is, earlier that evening, when I'd met Dennis in the hotel, it was a nice hotel, I don't know what it was called, and all that. He'd actually picked up a story in the bar. Right. He was sitting at the bar waiting for me.
They were terrific at that, though, weren't they?
They were, and I came in, I said hello to him, and he indicated to me to shut up.
Yeah.
And he was actually earwigging a conversation to his left between 2 blokes over a crooked property deal.
Oh, right.
And the story eventually appeared in print in the Daily Mail. It was amazing, and that's, much as you and I applied ourselves for jobs in those days, you'd never have found me able to, concentrate long enough in a bar, listening to somebody's conversation to pick up a story from it.
No, exactly right.
But he was a smashing bloke, and he was a very genuine, honest man, and as you quite rightly say, gave a lot of young journalists a great deal of help to make their careers.
A leg up in life. And reading the obituary that you were referring to there in the Press Gazette, just to give people an idea of some of the newspapers and sort of periodicals that he worked on.
Yes.
Following his national service in the RAF, he began his career on the Earlham Guardian,
which is just outside Manchester.
Moved to the Sheffield Star, where he famously fixed it for his pal Michael Parkinson to land a date with Mary, his wife-to-be.
Yes.
He then moved on to the Empire News, which was a Manchester broadsheet that sold on Saturday night.
Tell you what, I don't even remember that.
Sunday
that.
Pictorial, which became the Sunday Mirror.
That's right.
And then, of course, he opened in 1961 the Cassidy and Lee Agency.
In 1961?
With Don Lee,
God, blimey.
And he was brought back, funnily enough, to Fleet Street later on in the 60s to work on the Sunday People.
Yes.
On all sorts of investigations. And funnily enough, I knew a guy there was a guy called Laurie Manifold, I don't know if you remember him, who used to run a lot of the Sunday People investigations when it was still a proper paper.
That's right,
And actually used to do some quite good work. And according to this piece, several people, including Greg Dyke, were former Cassidy and Lee employees.
That's right, yeah.
So there you go.
And Harry Aspey, one time managing editor of the Press Association, who I got to know later in life. You're absolutely right. That happened quite a lot, actually, because there was also a news agency down in Dartford in Kent called Ferraris.
There was indeed.
And that was the family of Nick Ferrari, who is the current, I think he's broadcast on LBC.
LBC Breakfast guy.
LBC Breakfast, that's right. And his father, Dan Ferrari.
Good friend of ours.
Yeah, very good friend of ours. And his father, Dan Ferrari, created that agency. And there were guys there who I'd meet in the Sunday Mirror on a Saturday, because I used to do like a freelance shift on a Saturday at the Sunday Mirror when I worked for the Birmingham Mail in London. And these guys ran their own news agencies during the week, but would work in there on a Sunday because they had so much in the way of contacts, around the country and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it was
a very big business. And also, they were the
business.
first. I mean, one of the things when I did my sort of baptism of fire with them when I went to that dinner.
Yes.
They were basically beginning to branch out into different things like video.
Yeah.
They were doing online stuff. Before the newspapers had kind of picked up on how to do it.
And some of them actually specialised exclusively in features. And they'd go after big buy-ups and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
There was a guy who used to be the news editor of the Mirror who went off and did that. I think he did.
Was it Peter somebody?
No, it wasn't Peter. It was... I can't remember, and see his face now. He famously...
Wasn't the guy that famously had the ski resort?
No, it wasn't a guy who had the C-Raw. Famously, Ted Oliver, who worked for the Mirror but then went on to work for the Mail.
Yeah. Whose nose was bitten by
Vinnie Jones.
Yeah.
You know all the Beijing massacre stuff, the tanks in Beijing.
Yeah, Tiananmen Square.
Tiananmen Square.
Yeah.
Ted eventually got into Beijing, I remember, and he'd always thought his news editor was a bit of a thickhead, didn't really appreciate the way the world worked.
Right.
And so it took Ted 3 days to get there. Eventually got in. He got into a hotel, managed to ring, and got him at home, and I'm trying to remember this guy's name. I will in a minute. And Ted, he was a very bright man from Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Peter, it's Ted here. When you got in, in the hotel. And where exactly are you, Ted?
Yeah.
I'm in Beijing.
Right.
Right, okay. And how long will it take you now to get to Peking?
Right.
Sorry?
Yeah. One of those great ones.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Tremendous. Now, I must point out to you that having just spoken to Sandra Lee down in Australia, Becky says she's listening live to the Two Mites with the start of Cyclone Cook bearing down. Worst weather yet to come in the next 4 hours. Yeah. And there's a picture of that. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. Look at that cyclone picture.
Yeah, but that's a meteorological picture. You don't actually see that in the sky, do you?
No, I know you don't see it in the sky.
So what are you showing me for, then?
Because it's a weather picture, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a weather map picture, so it doesn't mean anything, does it?
No, it means a lot. You can see the centre of the storm.
No, you can't.
And it's got all sorts of green and blue swirls.
It looks like a Picasso painting.
You're hopeless.
And just as unintelligible.
There is no panicular structure on this.
Yeah.
But it is going to hurt people. So if you are in that part of the world, take care.
Yes.
Because it's a massive cyclone.
Yes.
And Becky, I'm sure you'll be all right.
His name is Tom.
Tom. You don't mean Tom Petrie?
Yeah, Tom Petrie.
At the Sun.
No, Tom Hendry.
Oh, Tom Hendry. I know Tom
Hendry.
Yes, I remember him
very
well. Very
sallow-faced individual.
Did he not go to work in a place at Reading?
Yeah, he did. It
was Reading, wasn't it?
Castingley. It was Reading, wasn't it?
Reading.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But I can't remember the name of it. But I remember the guy. Yeah. He used to come into the Mirror every Monday.
Oh, that's right.
To have lunch with various people.
I see.
And basically try and
flog him a few features and that sort of
rubbish,
stuff. Yeah.
It was indeed the case.
Do you come from a land down under? Women go and men wonder. Can't you hear the thunder? You better run, you better take cover.
We are the Two Mites, and that music can only mean one thing, of course. It is time to speak to our very, very favourite Australian. It is Ms. Sandra Lee. Sandra,
Indeed.
Very good morning to you. Welcome.
G'day, chaps, and thank you for having me on.
Not at all, and I suppose
great to hear from you again.
It's permissible to wish you a happy Easter, technically, because you're already well into Maundy Thursday, aren't you?
We are indeed. We're almost halfway through it.
Yeah, right. So Good Friday coming up. What's the big sort of Easter plan for the weekend?
The big Easter plan for my weekend is my husband and my dog and I are all driving down to Melbourne to spend some time with my father.
Oh, so right. And how long's the drive? Isn't that? It's quite a long way away.
Yeah, it's about an 8-hour drive.
Oh, blimey, yeah, it is a long way, isn't it? Yeah.
Porky wouldn't be able to sustain an 8-hour drive, would you? You'd have to keep stopping.
Well, I mean, everybody would stop, wouldn't you, Sandra? Else you get cramp in 8 hours in a car.
Not in my car.
Sorry?
You get cramp in your car.
No, you get cramp in your car. I mean, in Australia, where obviously you live, Sandra, I mean, they do, in this country, we have called motorway service stations. In your country, it's a bit more than that, isn't it? Because it can be quite desperate if your car breaks down in those sort of conditions.
Yeah, well, we have quite a lot of them as well in the main areas, but you're right. Across the Nullarbor and a part of the interior of the country, if you're not prepared, you are going to be in big, big trouble.
Yeah, sure, no.
And do they sort of give you, if you were to get into trouble, do they then fine you for having to come out and rescue you or something like that if you're stuck in the outback?
Yeah, they charge you like a wounded bull.
Yeah.
They don't fine you, but they do charge, and it's serious money because sometimes they've even had to send out helicopters to search for people. There's been a lot of incidences where tourists have followed their sat-nav into places that don't actually exist because, they've got the wrong information on it, and they just get lost or they get bogged in sand and sort of creeks. It can be quite a problem.
Oh, no, I fully support charging people because, as you know, in this country, in the UK, all these mad nutters go walking up things like the mountains in Scotland, Ben Nevis and all those sort of full-on places, and then when they get stuck at the top, somebody has to go out and rescue them, and you're putting the lives of the rescuers at risk as well as the lives of the people who are so incompetent as not to be able to find their way down a mountain. So I'm all for charging them. No, I am. I'm
with you.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I'm with you completely because they're not only incompetent, they're incredibly selfish.
That's right, they are. They just do it for themselves. Now, may I ask you this, Sandra? Strange question, but are you a fan of Manuka honey?
Yes, I am. I love it.
Right, OK. So I have learned from my spies in the Southern Hemisphere the New Zealand government has tested 800 samples of honey from around the world to establish a scientific definition of genuine Manuka honey and to crack down on fakes.
What is Manuka honey?
Well, perhaps you could explain, Sandra.
Well, Manuka honey is a special type of honey that is pollinated by a certain kind of bee on a certain kind of plant.
Right.
So it is very scientific, and it's got massive medicinal properties. Mm-hmm. So people actually use Manuka honey on wounds.
Yeah.
I've got a friend who just had a dog. The dog was attacked, and he used the honey on the dog wound and the dog bite, and it cleaned it up in about 10 days. It was amazing.
Right.
Wow.
And is it, I mean, sorry to sound thick here, but I mean, is it from
you do
a particular...
sound thick, yeah.
Do I?
Yeah.
Yeah, not compared to you, though.
Hey.
I mean, you make me look like Albert Einstein.
Listen, just get on with it.
Oh, I'll just get on with it. So, I mean, are they different? Are they special bees that are producing this honey?
Well, it's certain bees that go to the certain plant. It's actually the way it's been pollinated on the plant.
Mm. Okay.
I'm not a scientist, so I can't give you the full bottle and bottle on it. But it's a healing honey. And if you've ever got a cold or a flu coming on, pop that in the glass of lemon and hot water and Bob's your uncle.
And is it one of these? Because I've seen local honey, like down in Sussex, for example, in these farm shops.
That's right.
Where you buy a tiny little jar for about 13 quid.
Yeah.
Is it like ridiculously expensive then?
Oh, yeah, it is. And there's various grades of it. It starts from a grade 5 and then it goes all the way up to a grade 50. And the higher the grade, the more expensive it is. Some of them charge about $85 for, just a 250-gram pot.
Wow. And is this exclusive to New Zealand then? You don't produce it in Australia?
Yeah, no, we've got them in Australia as well.
Oh,
so
I see.
New Zealand has it and Australia has it. And it's now one of the big exports. It gets exported all around the world.
Well, I'm reading that. The exports to Britain, China and other countries is expected to reach something in excess of $400 million next year. That's quite a lot of...
Yeah. I've heard of it. I don't think I've ever seen it anywhere.
I need to get to a honey farm quick and start investing because it sounds to me like it's...
I think you may have missed the boat on that one.
It's a very good idea, hey?
I think you may have missed the boat.
Why?
Well, you're going to start investing in it. It's already a massively big business, which is already established.
You see, you don't understand, Mike. You don't know how to handle money. You've got to spot. You've got to spot the opportunity.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying the opportunity's already passed you by.
No, I've just spotted the opportunity.
No,
you didn't even know what Manuka honey was.
Yeah, I did.
So you're not an expert on it, are you?
I just thought I'd help you out.
Now, does Sandra know about this Australian people who are going to invest in football in this country?
Well, she may do. There's a story here, Sandra, about a troubled football club here called Charlton Athletic here in South London.
Very troubled.
Who have had problems with their owners and problems with their players and managers and all that. There's word that there's an Australian consortium putting together a bid to possibly buy it. And it's going to be headed up by Mark Schwarzer, who's an Australian footballer who used to play here for, I think, Leicester and for Chelsea, no?
Yes, it's absolutely right. They are doing it. I don't know who Schwarzer played for because I'm not a big football fan.
Yeah.
However, this consortium is trying to raise Australian $55 million to buy that club.
Wow.
And apparently they've done all the financial due diligence on it, and they think it's a great idea, and they believe that with the lucrative media rights arrangements, if they manage to get to buy this team and get it into the Premier League, that they'll have a massive return on investment. So that's what they're hoping for.
Well, that's the trick,
Who knows
isn't
if they'll pull it off.
Well, that's the trick. I mean, if they can get this club into the Premier League, then there is a load of money. But if they can't, then the money is not quite so big. That's the problem.
Yeah, but if they're ambitious and they know what they're doing, I mean, that they've come from all over the world to the UK, Sandra, to buy clubs. And for instance, we were only reading yesterday that Stan Kroenke, who bought Arsenal, has doubled his money. So it can be done. And when we're talking about doubling his money, we're talking about 350, 400 million pounds,
Right.
So it's a very, very lucrative business, the Premier League in this country. It doesn't surprise me. Australian businesses are looking at it.
No, but again, it will depend on whether they can get it up there. I've got a far more interesting question to ask, Sandra, actually, which is more about the sort of the health and welfare of the world.
Yes.
Which is all about North Korea, Pyongyang, or Pyongyang, as Porky calls it.
Are we on Pyongyang?
And what China's up to, because we keep seeing all this stuff about the Russians and Trump, and China's kind of, everybody's taking their eye off China slightly. What are you seeing, because you're a bit nearer that part of the world, what are you seeing from where you are?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Everyone's worried, beyond by what's going on in North Korea and those crazies over there. And, well, the last thing that we've seen about China is that they've been, the Premier or who is it? Is it the Premier there? I think it is. He's been cozying up with Trump in America and eating chocolate cake. So I think Trump's been pushing some pressure his way to the Chinese way to sort out what's going on the border of North Korea.
I have to say...
Let's hope they do.
Well, yeah, I mean, because he put out a tweet the other day saying that, if China's not going to sort out North Korea, then we'll do it for them. And then he sort of signs off the tweet, USA. And you just think, I'm not quite sure about this. And then tonight he comes out with a great one where he's talking about the relationship between Russia, making out that it's the worst relationship they've ever had, which I don't believe for a start. But he then says, well, just see how it goes. I mean, he's the president of the free world. He's not really supposed to say things like, we'll see how it goes, is he?
No. It reminds me of...
I was asking Sandra, actually.
Sorry, I thought you'd answered. Sorry, Sandra. Yeah.
I thought she'd
Please
answer.
go on. Yeah.
Hers is the slightly higher voice, which is with an Australian accent.
Yeah, that's absolutely
Just
right.
for guidance.
That's absolutely right.
Sorry, Sandra, off you go.
No, that's true. My head is slightly higher. I'm glad about that.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Exactly.
But I think Trump, I am never surprised by anything that man does. He is unpredictable and borderline nuts, in my humble opinion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think that, unless there's some serious steady hands in the background behind him at the White House and in sort of, the State Department and the Defense Department, who knows what's going to happen in the coming months and years.
No, it's absolutely true. But I was going to say, when we used to all work in America together, I remember that famous documentary, George H. Bush, put together this piece to try and promote his chances against Bill Clinton. And it was incredible. They were all in the White House there, and the guy said, hey, Mr. President, your Secret Service keeping you in touch with what's going on in Iraq. He said, well, not as much as CNN is, because that's all he was doing.
Yeah, right.
Sitting in the Oval Office all day watching CNN.
Well, that was the first war of CNN war, wasn't it?
Exactly, yeah.
And people were astonished at the fact that they could just sit somewhere and watch the whole thing as it unfolded.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's right. And that was the making of CNN.
Of course it was, yeah, that's right. Old Ted Turner became the richest man in the world, didn't he? Decided that it'd be good to have a trophy wife, so went off and married Jane Fonda, didn't he?
He did indeed.
Yeah, didn't last, though.
I don't think it lasted. It lasted longer than a lot of people thought it would, though.
Well, yeah, it did, yeah. But considering they lived on an estate in Montana, which is bigger than Wales, it wasn't surprising. They didn't see much of each other.
No, quite.
No, quite.
So what else has been going on? What news on the kangaroo front or the sort of... the
mad alligators.
Mad alligators, sharks, that kind of thing?
Yeah, all those sort of things.
There have been no shark attacks, no croc attacks lately, and no spider bites.
And is your spider still in the house, or is it gone?
It's long gone. I haven't seen it for weeks now. In fact, the last time we spoke, it had sort of done a runner. It found better digs elsewhere, so I'm not sure where it's gone. Thank goodness.
Okay. Well, as long as it has gone, that's all you need to know.
Well, listen, have a fantastic Easter.
Yeah, Sandra, have a great Easter, really great one, and please send our best wishes to your dad. Wish him well, and we'll talk to you again very soon.
Thank you very much, and happy Easter and happy Passover.
Indeed.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much indeed. Sandra Lee there, giving us the best of all worlds. You know, there's a place called Brownsea Island.
Yes.
Which is sort of across the way from...
No, very well.
And it's now owned by the National Trust.
Yes, I knew that.
I nearly said the National Front for some reason.
Yeah,
it's not owned by them.
No.
It's owned by the National Trust.
Yes.
And apparently, they've got this beautiful old sort of hotel there, which is like a castle.
Yes.
Which was built by somebody famous years and years and years ago.
Right.
Who then had to sell it. Mm-hmm. Did you know it's owned by John Lewis?
No, I didn't know that.
Apparently...
You told me that earlier, yeah.
You can only go there if you work for John Lewis.
Yes. I see. So it's
like
a staff rest and recuperation centre?
Well, yeah. Well, it's a holiday destination, so you can effectively go and stay there.
But you pay to stay there.
I think you pay, but it's obviously subsidised.
Yeah, I see,
and it's only open to John Lewis employees. I think it's a great.
Yeah,
perk,
I'm sure I've been there for lunch actually.
You may have been. I think certainly people said we could have gone there for a drink. We didn't have time in the end.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But what a beautiful weekend of weather.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've got a suntan. Have you not noticed?
No, not really.
Why not? You're so unobservant.
No,
you
I don't think
care
you've got
about
one.
me,
I
do
don't
you?
think you've got one.
I have.
I've got a bit of one because I was out today.
You look less pasty-faced than you normally do
Yeah,
on a Monday night.
I went walking today, so...
Well, I was out all day on a boat, basically.
Yeah, on a
off
boat,
the coast
yeah,
of Dorset.
yeah.
So I got, we were on the beach.
Well, I was on
and the
down
dogs
by
with
the
us.
river yesterday, and sun reflects off water, of course.
Well, I was at the sea.
Yeah, well, that reflects off the sea as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for asking about my little time away. You haven't asked me one question.
I
about
have.
it.
How did
You
it
have
go?
no interest in anything I
asked
do.
you earlier, how did it go? How did it go?
It went very well, thank you. Had a lovely time.
You were scrounging on some friends, weren't you?
Not really, no. We were invited to stay at some friend's house. We have a very nice 7-bedroom house in Dorset, in the same town where T.E. Lawrence died.
T. Lawrence, on his
Lawrence
motorbike.
Lawrence
Came off his
Arabian,
motorbike, yeah.
In fact, where he came off his motorbike was just down the road from where we were.
Is that right?
Yeah.
What's that town called?
It's called Morton.
Morton. Yeah, a bit of a shame that.
Bit of a shame.
Yeah,
Well, it was for him.
Well, it was, and definitely it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was all right riding a camel, but he came off his bike.
He was indeed.
And they reckon that what happened was his gearbox seized up, and he just went over the.
Yeah, well, the wheels will
handlebars.
stop. And do you know where else we went? We went to another little town, the name of which I forget. But it's the town that basically Julian Fellows lives in, who's the guy who wrote Downton Abbey.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And he more or less owns the entire town.
Yeah, what's that called?
I can't remember.
Can't remember.
But the pub was
It's
lovely.
very interesting.
It's
yeah,
a pub, really nice.
So you went in the pub in a town whose name you can't remember.
Yeah.
How much you had to drink by the time you arrived at this pub?
Nothing.
No, quite a lot.
Hadn't
quite
had
a lot.
anything, no. Had 2 pints of beer in the pub and some lunch.
There's some talk, that Julian Fellows and our greatest ever playwright of musicals,
Who would that be?
Lord Lloyd Webber.
Oh, yeah. We talked about him on Saturday, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
With Eleanor Mills.
That's right. May get together to produce a
musical
stage version of Downton Abbey.
No.
Yes, but the downside to it is that the whole of the cast would have to be replaced because none of them have any sort of experience of working in musicals or singing parts.
Mind you, they did it with Mamma Mia, didn't they?
But Mamma Mia was not the same as the film, was it? I mean,
no, but what I'm saying is they made
Pierce Brosnan's
they made a musical film
Well, they did,
with
yeah.
Meryl Streep and Pierce Brosnan.
That's right.
Which you wouldn't have thought they could ever do.
But when you make a film, you can put all sorts of special effects in.
Are you saying it's not their voices?
Well, I'm not saying it's not their voices, but
I
you
think
can
be very careful about that.
You can make things sound great on film. I'm not for a minute suggesting there was any trickery.
Certainly not.
But
that would be shocking.
But you can't do that on the stage as well.
Michael says this: there are no footballing wastelands. There are wastelands, but football tends to be very popular in such places.
Yes.
Well, I wouldn't categorise Azerbaijan as a wasteland.
Well, I would in footballing terms.
No,
I would
he's
not
saying
in
no.
oil terms or wealth terms, but in footballing terms, I would.
Wasn't it Azerbaijan who produced one of the teams that played Celtic in one of the qualifying rounds of the Champions League?
Could well have been.
And when they came to Glasgow,
yes,
put in a special request that they wanted to murder a sheep in the tunnel because that's what they do before every game for good luck.
I'm not sure about that, actually. That sounds like a quaint custom.
Well, no,
But
there was
not
definitely a
necessar-
sheep, but I'm not sure if it's Azerbaijan or some other country.
Not necessarily, I would think, for Glasgow. Have you ever studied The Wasteland, the famous poem?
Teenage Wasteland?
No, The Wasteland.
No.
By T.S. Eliot?
No.
It's one of the most famous poems ever written.
No, I've never studied it.
Well, you've never studied it?
No.
What an ignoramus. Anyway, getting back...
Well, why don't you tell me about it?
Well, The Wasteland...
Why don't you tell me about it?
It's a battle of man against Christianity.
Is it?
Yes, it's all about...
Can you recite any of it?
Can I recite any of it? Yeah,
Yeah.
I could recite great drafts of it,
Go on,
but
then.
I'd have to think about it for a while to get
Well,
the
so you
proper
don't know it off by
interpretation.
heart, then?
Well, I don't know the whole of it off by heart. It's about...
Do you know any of it off
It's
by
about
heart?
36 pages long.
Oh, do you know any of it?
Yeah, I do.
Well, you don't know, do you? You
Yeah.
can't say any of it. Can you give me one line from it?
You know the expression between a rock and a hard place
Yes.
came from T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland.
Did it?
Because it's the torment within Christianity.
All right.
Yeah.
So what context is that then? Can you give me the line?
It's about a very hot day, and do you shelter under the rock, or do you go out and pursue your
The
path,
hard place.
the path in life? Yeah,
Rubbish. What a load of
rock and a
rubbish.
hard place.
So you don't know anything about it either.
Now, getting back to your...
It's typical of you. What
Yes.
you have
Yes.
is a sort of headline-grabbing
No.
knowledge of almost everything.
No.
Which means basically you have knowledge of nothing.
The most famous line from it, right,
Yeah.
which I sometimes invoke
Yeah.
when I, want to get really sort of philosophical with people,
All right.
is you put your hand forward with your clenched fist, and then you turn it round and you say, I can show you fear in a handful of dust.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
A handful of dust was another one.
No,
wasn't
handful.
it?
I can show you fear in a handful of dust.
Yeah.
And that means that's what we came from, and that's what we're going to.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's a very famous
But
line.
A Handful of Dust was also a famous literary work, wasn't it?
I've no
Wasn't it by Evelyn Waugh or somebody?
I've no
Handful of
idea.
Dust.
No idea. T.S. Eliot got there first.
All right.
Now, about this...
Well, thanks for that. I feel as if you've really educated me.
Yeah, I have.
Poem.
Now then,
By the way, Shakhtar, somebody or other with the team from Kazakhstan that wanted to slaughter a sheep.
So they weren't from Azerbaijan?
No. Well, I said I wasn't sure if they were, but they were from that part of the world. I mean, Azerbaijan to Kazakhstan is not a massively big distance.
Well, they're all Jans, aren't they?
Jans.
Yeah.
Well, like Jan
or
leaving.
Stans. No, like Stans or Jans.
Stan and Jan.
Yeah,
That,
Kazakhstan and Azerbaijan. Now then, what I was going to say is, this scrounging
What scrounging are you
weekend...
talking about?
Well, hang on. If I go away with friends, we stay in a decent sort of boutique hotel.
You don't go away with friends.
We don't knock on somebody's door and say, "Oh, listen, can we bunk up in your spare room for the weekend, please?"
Here's the difference.
That'll save me a few bob on a hotel with my family.
Here's the difference between
I'm
you and
bringing
I.
me 2 boys as well.
Here's the difference between you and I. One, you don't get invited anywhere by anyone because you don't have any friends. I do get invited by people to stay in their homes because they have big enough homes to accommodate me. In fact, this place was so big that we practically had our own wing. So, we didn't even notice that we were in somebody else's house.
Yeah, well, that's probably why you chose to scrounge on your friends when you saw their big house.
You scrounged your way down to my place in Sussex, I seem to remember that you were more than happy for me to provide you with accommodation without stumping up the money for it.
I think I did.
No, you didn't.
Didn't I? Who did then?
I did.
Was you?
Yeah.
Well, that's only,
This
proper.
is the polite thing to do.
Exactly.
So what we did was we stayed, funnily enough, we were invited on the Sunday and Monday night.
Yes.
Because they had friends staying on the Saturday night.
Oh, I see.
But then the friends on the Saturday cancelled.
Right.
So they said, if you want, you can come stay Saturday night as well.
So did you go Saturday?
No, because we did go Saturday, but we already booked a hotel.
Oh, I see, right.
Which was actually a pub.
Right.
In the neighbourhood.
What was that like?
It was all right. Quite nice.
Yeah.
I mean, the rooms were quite nice.
Don't look as though you really fancied it.
It wasn't what I would call 5-star.
No, okay.
But it was all right.
It's okay. And then did your friends come over and you have dinner with them in the pub?
And they came over and we had dinner there.
I see. And
on the Saturday night.
And then you moved into their place the next day.
And then on the Sunday we went over there.
Yes.
Had a lovely day on the beach. And then they made a very nice dinner. Had a bit of a fire outside. And made a beautiful garden and everything. And they got a Labrador as well. So their black lab became very friendly with our golden lab.
Very good.
It was all very civilised.
Sounds very nice indeed, yeah. And are you going to scrounge off them again now that you found out they've got a free big house in the country?
Well, the trouble is they're actually selling the house because tragically one of the reasons why we went was that it's their kind of dream house. They bought this dream house, right?
Yes.
But unfortunately, without being told about it, the guy that owns half of Dorset, who's one of these guys who's
like the Lord Lieutenant or something,
bit of a sort of an overarching landlord, has decided to flog off the field next to their house for a quarry.
For a quarry?
For a quarry, because a lot of quarrying goes on down there, right? And so it's going to be hideous.
Right.
They're going to be sort of, scraping the earth. It's going to be, huge trucks all over the place.
Well, presumably your friends now then, their value of their house must have been blighted by development.
Well, it has been.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not as well.
Who's going to buy a house next to a quarry?
Well, they've already got a buyer for it because people who wanted to buy it first time around, who were against them, have now gone back and have decided they want to buy it.
But do they know there's going to be a quarry next door?
Yeah, they do.
They have to, because if you don't disclose that, it's against the law.
I know they do, and they don't care because they love the house so much.
Really?
And it's a beautiful house. It really is.
Yes.
And it's got beautiful grounds. It's very secluded. It's not near any roads. But they've just said, look, we thought about it, and we just don't want to live next to a quarry.
So where are they going to move to?
They don't know yet.
Oh, I see.
They don't know yet. It's all a bit of a sad story, really.
And didn't you tell me that one of our old Fleet Street colleagues had a place down there as well?
Indeed, true. Yes, that's true as well. But we don't need to necessarily go into that on the air.
Why not?
Because there's no reason for it.
Really?
Yeah. Somebody you know quite well, actually.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
But best not to mention the name because, there may be lawsuits involved.
Yeah, well, of course we don't want to do that. And there's been a change in sort of lifestyle of this particular person.
Yeah, change in circumstances.
Yes,
life goes up and down for some people.
It certainly does, yeah.
You know what it's like.
Yes,
sometimes you do well, other times you don't do so well.
That's right, and then you bounce back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
exactly. And that's what's going to be happening. Lots more. How about this from Adam, who says, do you not think the reason why he's not pressing charges, talking about Ross Barkley, is because he just had a scrap with one of his mates? Well, that's very possibly.
Oh, yeah, that is a possibility. Could have been a row over something and nothing, Nevertheless, not good, is it?
Doesn't look good.
It doesn't look good, and I'm sure he'll learn from the whole experience.
You may well be right. Steve says, I'm stuck in Birkenhead waiting for my taxi. Hashtag man of the people.
Yeah, sorry about that, mate.
Hashtag plank.
Just one of those things. As your TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's your problem?
That music can only mean one thing. It is, of course, that time of the week where Porky Vision kicks in, and Mr. Parry will tell us all about the shows he's been watching, what you should be watching, what you shouldn't be watching,
Indeed.
and what he likes and what he doesn't like.
Yes.
So what have you got for us this week?
Well, Broadchurch is becoming amazing.
Is it?
Oh, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, Line of Duty is becoming amazing,
All right.
but in a different sort of way. But
Funnily enough, when I was in Dorset this week, I had one of my favourite tweets from someone I don't know,
right,
who said, "Since you're down in Dorset,
Yeah.
are you one of the suspects in Broadchurch like everyone else?"
Exactly. You could be. Yeah, you could be. Yeah. And Vera, by the way. Do you know that Vera is played by an actress who is 70 years of age, Brenda
Blethyn.
Blethyn,
Yeah.
who is actually 50 years of age in the series.
Is she?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, you know what I think about that series this time around?
Yeah.
I think they've done something funny to her hair.
Right.
Her hair looks a lot more coiffed.
She looks a lot sort of more curmudgeonly and old to me than she ever did.
But I mean, her hair sort of doesn't suit her characters. It looks a bit too well put together, if you know what I mean.
Well, she's investigating all these murders, driving around in this Jeep that you wanted.
No, it's a Land Rover,
actually.
She's got a Land Rover Defender.
That's right, all over Northumberland.
Yeah, I didn't want one of those.
All this kind of stuff. Well, no, they're a farm vehicle, basically.
Well,
aren't
I mean,
they?
a lot of people like them. They're very trendy.
Yeah, well, are they?
So they've stopped making them now.
Yeah, they have stopped making them, yeah. Bob McGowan used to have one, used to work for us on the Express.
The Olympic Flame, they call it.
The Olympic Flame.
He never went out.
Now, Broadchurch, right?
Yes.
Now, what's happening here is, I mean, this is getting serious because, of course, it's all based on a fact that they've put together pieces of a jigsaw to reveal there's a serial rapist around, over the space of the last 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
And this is only because, women have come forward to reveal these terrible attacks that have happened to them after previously not speaking about them.
Yes.
Now, Julie Hesmondula.
Yeah. My favourite, that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she's the woman who used to be Hayley in Coronation Street.
Okay. Hayley Hesmondula.
Eh?
Hey?
No, Julie Hesmondula is the actress's name.
Oh, sorry.
She was Hayley Cropper in
Cropper?
in Coronation Street.
Did she ever come at Cropper?
Yeah, she died of cancer as a
Did she?
As a character, yes,
right.
yeah, but she's still alive, obviously, as Julie Hesmondula, else she wouldn't be in Broadchurch, would she, Right, so anyway, I don't know why you find this so funny. So, anyway, so she is the central character because it was when she reported the terrible attack on her that it all took off.
Yes.
Now, what's been revealed since then is a series of Rogerisation goings-on, which are truly shocking. So, for instance...
And that nobody knew about.
Nobody knew about this in this small community called, what's it called? West Beach or something?
West Bay.
West Bay, that's right.
Well, that's what it's really called.
Yeah, that's right, but it's called Broadchurch. Now, so what happens is, she goes to this party and gets terribly attacked by somebody.
Right.
But she's had to admit, because of DNA tests, that morning she actually had, a bit of old rumpy-pumpy with a bloke on the morning of this 50th birthday party.
Yeah.
And then had to reveal to her best friend that it was her best friend's husband that she was romping with.
That didn't go well, did it?
Didn't go well. Except that the wife, who's been cuckolded, the one who said to her, "Why would anybody rape you?" suggesting she's too ugly to be raped, which is a terrible thing.
Which is a terrible thing to say.
Terrible thing to say. Yeah. Now seems to have forgiven her husband, right? And said, "I tell you, why don't we move away? I hate all this, right?" And then has now forgiven Julia Hesmondula, but now that guy turns out to be a sex maniac because he had sex with Julia Hesmondula in the morning of the party.
This is the woman's husband.
The woman's husband. Yeah. And the woman was the woman whose party it was. It was a 50th birthday party for her.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So he spent the afternoon organising her party. Yeah. And then at 5 o'clock, got in his car, drove to a chemist, bought a packet of condoms, and came back because he thought he'd caught the eye of one of the waitresses, and he was right. And he took her to the woods behind the...
Well, this is before the party.
This is before the party. Fine. Took her into the woods behind the house where the party was taking place, and had sex with her against a tree.
Against a tree?
Against a tree, yeah.
How do you know it was against a tree?
Because he told the police it was against a tree.
Oh, right, okay.
Right, okay.
And what sort of tree was it?
Well, I don't know what sort of tree it was, you idiot.
Well, it's important.
It matters.
Well, it might do.
So now you've got a situation, right, where the Rogerisation aspect...
So is he saying, therefore, he couldn't be capable of doing whatever it was later?
No, not at all.
Worn out.
Not at all.
Right.
Not at all. It looks like he is a sex maniac.
Right.
Who,
Maniac.
who likes having sex all the time.
Yeah.
With anybody.
Doesn't make him a bad person.
Doesn't make him a bad person, but then again, those sort of people obviously are of interest to the police.
Yeah, you gotta
if
be
there is a
careful.
mad serial rapist on the loose, you know what I mean? Because you'd say, that sort of activity is similar.
Indeed.
So
all right.
Yeah, so he's
So he's a suspect.
he's a suspect.
Yeah.
And
I was reading something the other day where people were saying, why are people complaining that all these people are suspects? I mean, that's the way the shows are supposed to be done.
yeah, they're all
You're not
suspects.
supposed to find out now. You find out at the end.
You find out at the end. That's absolutely right. Yeah, but that will all come to a conclusion.
Yeah.
So that's all. Very interesting. There's also like a weirdo taxi driver who's a suspect.
Yes.
And
Isn't Lenny Henry a suspect as well?
Lenny Henry's a suspect, and Lenny Henry is like gone a bit off his rocker, the character, because he goes around beating people up if he thinks they've been bad to Julie Hesmondula.
Right.
And he did beat up the guy who had sex against the tree with the waitress.
Yeah.
Because
Not
he had
because
sex.
of the tree, though, or the waitress.
No, because he had sex with Julie Hesmondula.
Hesmondula, yeah.
And the other thing is that Julie Hesmondula has got an exiled husband.
Exiled?
Yeah.
Where?
Well, I mean,
like
they've parted,
like
and he
Saint Helena
lives
or
somewhere
something.
else. But he's what he's done is right.
Well, he's not living in the town, is he?
Yeah, he lived in the town.
Has
Yeah, yeah, but he's living in a separate place to Julie Hesmondula.
Okay.
He's living somewhere else. But he managed to get installed on his computer. Now, this is very dangerous, this. Your laptop computer. Have you got a laptop?
I have,
no?
yeah.
You have a laptop, yeah. Do you know if it's probably got a camera in it? So you can.
I think it has, yeah.
So you can Skype.
Yeah.
Do you know that people completely randomly
Yeah.
can install software on that so that people can watch you as you're at your computer without you knowing?
Yes, I did know that. Yeah.
Did you know that? Well, that's what he did to Julia Hesmondula.
Oh, really?
Yeah. See. Now, so
Very
that's
tricky, that.
that's all pretty
It's called
interesting.
like a worm or something, isn't it?
Is it?
Isn't it called a worm?
A worm.
Or it's some kind of
A
Trojan?
wire? Is it called a wire?
No. It's like they can put things into your.
Yes.
They can put a virus basically into your computer.
Yes.
Where they can find out what you're typing. That they can get your keystrokes.
But this actually looks at you. It's actually looking at you.
Well, it's just accessing the camera.
Accessing the camera.
not
That's
actually
right.
looking
yeah.
at you.
Right. So there's all of that going on, right? Hey, what's the problem?
It's not actually looking at you. It's just
No, it
using
is.
it's
It is.
using the camera.
Yeah, but somebody else, if they're keying into your computer, can
Yeah.
follow your movements around the room.
Yes.
Yes. See, so I knew that. So that's going on now. Then, in Line of Duty,
Yeah.
this is quite amazing.
Is it?
It's quite amazing because I've been trying to figure out right from the start why the chief cop in the case is. I thought you were laughing then. For a
No, I
minute.
wasn't. No, I was just breathing in.
I see. The chief cop in the case is being investigated by the anti-corruption squad within the police force itself.
Yes.
Because she seems like like a really good cop, except that she's murdered a forensic
Oh,
expert.
yes, you told me this. Yes, she kills the guy, right? Then
And cuts his
disguises-
fingers off.
Cuts his fingers off.
Yeah.
Disguises the fact that she's killed him.
Yes, that's
and
right.
yet you describe her as a good cop.
Well, there's something really weird going on because what we think might be the case now is she might not be a killer at all. She might be defending her husband, who is a killer, a maniac.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right?
Another maniac.
Another maniac.
Another sex maniac.
Well, the point is, she's in bed with her husband the other night.
Right.
He gets all amorous, right? Rogerization is in the air, so to speak. And she says, what are you laughing at?
Well, just because of the word.
Yeah, she says, I'm a bit tired tonight, darling. He says, okay.
Well, I've just been out murdering someone.
Well, we're not sure if he has, but you see, what happens is the anti-corruption cop, who's a really good guy.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, the chap playing the potential serial killer maniac husband of the good cop.
Of the good cop who's murdered the guy.
Well, we don't know, but we think he might have done. But his name's Lee Ingleby.
Right.
That's the actor, Lee Ingleby.
Lee Ingleby.
Who was brilliant in Inspector
Clouseau?
No. What's his name was in it? Martin Shaw.
Uh-huh.
Inspector George Gently.
Gently.
Inspector George Gently, right? You see
George
that?
Gently. No, I didn't like that.
Oh, Geordie.
No, I didn't like that.
Geordie, lads,
because
you
it
know.
was one of those old things.
Aye.
It's too old.
1950s
Yeah,
man.
it's too old. I'm not interested in the 50s.
Lee Ingleby, you know, he was a 1960s copper in a northeastern county,
Not
Durham.
interested. No, I didn't like it.
Well, he's the husband,
Right.
except he's now a high-powered lawyer.
Is he?
But the anti-corruption cop goes to
I'm
him.
finding it hard to keep up with
No,
this.
don't worry, it's easy to follow. The anti-corruption cop goes to him and his Swiss officers and says, I need to trace your wife's movements, his wife being the chief inspector, high-flying female cop.
You just put a camera into a computer.
No, that's a different program. That's
that
Broadchurch.
Oh, right.
Broadchurch.
Sorry.
This is line of duty, right? And he says, where was your wife, like 4 nights ago when this murder took place?
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I can't answer any of your questions. I'm sorry. I'm not a criminal lawyer and all that.
So he doesn't know where she was?
Well, we're not sure whether he doesn't know where she was or she doesn't know where he was. Anyway, he goes back to the officers of this guy, and guess what happens?
He kills him.
As he gets out the lift, this is the anti-corruption cop, who's a central figure to this show, and therefore nobody can imagine he can be killed before the last episode. Is suddenly confronted by a man in a balaclava with a baseball bat who beats him to death and throws him over the stairs.
Oh, God.
And, that's right, yeah. And...
is it nearly the end now?
Well, no, this is the whole point, you see. This is interesting. Right. So we don't know whether he's dead or not, but he looks very dead. He went down about 4 flights. You know what I mean?
Cut his fingers off?
No, nobody's cut his fingers off yet.
It's not her. She's not like a serial killer.
Well, we don't know. I don't know. It was a very vicious attack, And,
could it be a woman that did it?
Doubt it, because there was quite a struggle physically, in the corridor before he hurled him over the stairs and all that kind of stuff.
Right, okay.
But it's very interesting. Okay. It's absolutely
fascinating. Good, actually. I'll have to try and look at it.
It is brilliant.
But is it not on at the same time as something else?
Probably, but I mean, you've got tellies these days, you can record up to 5 programmes at the same time.
It's BBC, isn't it? It's Line of Duty.
Probably.
So I think I can get it on the iPlayer.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Okay. Worth watching.
Worth
watching.
So that's worth watching. That's the Porky Vision for this week.
And I think that was one of the most comprehensive Porky Visions we've had for a long time.
I think it probably was.
Yeah, I think it was.
Gave away quite a lot.
Oh,
but,
yes.
Thank you very much indeed.
No
More
problem.
Of the same.
No problem.
Next week.
Yes.
No dark sarcasm in the classroom. Teacher, leave them kids alone. Hey! Teacher, leave them kids alone.
Graham says the two mics can't discuss Easter in the UK. Jesus Christ, I don't know why he means that.
What do you mean?
I don't know what he means by that.
What?
I'm not sure.
What did I say?
Well, he's saying the two mics can't discuss Easter in the UK.
Why not?
Jesus Christ. I'm wondering whether, he doesn't want to, he's trying to suggest that we can't discuss it. But we just have discussed
We
it.
just discussed it. And we, by the way, we call it Easter, unlike, which company was it? Was it the...
Well, you're going to say Cadbury's, but in fact, Cadbury's say Easter eggs quite frequently.
Exactly.
They just get accused every Easter of not saying
Yeah, not saying it.
Which actually isn't true.
It started in America, all that, didn't it? Happy holidays and all that nonsense,
exactly.
You know what I mean?
But, they don't have
Christmas.
Easter eggs over there, do
No,
they?
they don't, no.
How about this from somebody in Northern Ireland? Brian in Northern Ireland. Rory McIlroy is from Northern Ireland, not Ireland.
Yeah, so why are you sending me a note to say that, Brian?
Because he must have said he was from Ireland in that clip. Remember when you were saying,
yes.
Would you consider Justin Rose? When you were talking about Rory McIlroy earlier on.
Well, he's still part of the island of Ireland, if you see what I mean, and they have one united rugby team and they have one united golf Olympic team, don't
they do, which he wanted to play for.
Yeah, exactly.
But then pulled out.
Yes.
How about this from Dave? Porky, weren't you tempted to donate a couple of copies of Rooney Tunes to your old school?
Yeah, actually, I might do that. It's a good idea, that. Yeah,
well, why don't you donate that instead of the two mics DVDs?
Why?
Because, then that way it doesn't involve me.
Well, it doesn't involve you anyway, if you don't mind me saying.
Well, I am part of the two mics, though. Even you will have to admit that.
Yeah, but you're not part of the King's School Chester alumni, okay?
But that's why I don't wish to be part of the alumni, as you put it, and therefore I do not wish to have my name associated with such a tawdry school.
Well, as I have a 50% stake in the two mics, I'm sorry, but you're outvoted.
Well, you can't outvote me if you only got 50%.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I'll tell you what you should do then. You go up to Chester and wait on the doorstep when the postman arrives with our 2 videos, okay? And then you want to take them off him, that's up to you.
If it's anything like the last deliveries you've been making, it'll be another 3 weeks before they see them. But that's another story.
It's a bit harsh.
It is a bit harsh.
Yeah.
Now, coming up very soon, we've got some very, very good Ask Porkies, right?
Yes.
Which we're going to get stuck into.
Yes, we certainly are.
But here's one from Becky who says, a shame Porky does not want a quiz on Easter. Questions back to AD 30 would be tougher than the Grand National of the 1800s.
Yeah, absolutely right. Absolutely right. And that's what would happen. Hey, by the way, have you ever read Vogue?
Vogue, the magazine?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
You know...
Alexandra Schulman was the editor, wasn't she?
Oh, yeah, but you know who's taken over?
Who?
A new chap is taking over.
Oh, right. Well, Anna Wintour has now disappeared.
Anna Wintour's disappeared. I'm talking about the British Vogue.
Okay.
No. Anna Wintour's still there in America,
Okay.
you know, El Supremo.
Yeah.
But the British Vogue
quite
has
a
a new
scary
editor.
boss, I would imagine.
And it is it's a chap for the first time ever. It's a man rather than
right?
a woman.
Okay.
And... I'm trying to remember his name. Is it
somebody we know?
Like that? No, it's not somebody we know, but it's a massive sort of revolution in the industry business because all those magazines like Harper's Bazaar and Vogue they're all edited by women traditionally, aren't they?
It's still Condé Nast Vogue, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is, yeah. But what I'm saying is that, you know, it's a tremendous break with tradition. And some wonder whether Anna Wintour is
it her choice, this guy?
Well, she has a huge say in it, obviously. And, could she possibly be thinking, I don't want a younger or, more vibrant sort of person running Vogue in London than me in New York or whatever.
Are you saying that she's chosen a man so that it could not be somebody in her own image?
No, not suggesting that for a minute. I'm just saying that, one has to watch one's back at that stage of one's career. That's all.
I suppose so.
Yeah.
There's not much danger of you being made editor of Vogue, though, is there?
No, I wouldn't want to be, thanks. I don't know anything about it.
Did you never get offered any weird jobs like that you didn't want? Like, you must have been offered some strange publishing jobs.
Not really, I don't think.
No? So you've always taken up the job offers you've had?
Yeah.
You've never turned one down?
Not really.
No.
My newspaper career was a seamless progression of big job after big job after big job to the biggest job. You see what I mean?
What was the biggest job?
That was when I was the assistant editor of the Express, I suppose.
Yes, I suppose so.
Yes.
Along with about 5 other people.
No. I used to edit the paper on a Sunday.
Yeah, well, so did 5 other people.
Yeah, but they weren't as good
They
as
were
me.
on a rota.
They weren't as good as me.
Becky says this, just a reminder, if you need any replacement DVDs, remember, due to Porky's incompetence, I have 3 of the original ones.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's great. Thanks very much indeed.
Well, do you remember she didn't get the second one?
That's right.
And then so she kept getting sent out the original ones. She had sent 3 separate times.
Sure. Well, hardly anything to do with me.
No, hardly anything.
No, I tell you what's worrying me a bit.
What?
Right. I have discovered that in Manchester there is a development called Number 1 Cambridge Street, in central Manchester.
Okay.
And there are 282 flats.
Right.
And it's 29 stories.
Right.
It's a big development, right?
So is it one building or is it several?
It's one building.
Okay.
Nearly 90% of the properties there have been bought by people from overseas.
How many?
90%.
Wow.
Now, I told you, didn't I, the other day, I went to have a look at a place in Surrey, in Sutton actually, and it had only just gone up, and over 70% of them have been bought by overseas investors.
Right.
I mean, it is happening all over this country.
Well, I mean, everywhere you look,
Yeah.
they are building, right?
Yes.
And I don't know anyone who lives in London, for example, that can afford to buy a flat in London.
No.
So I don't know who's buying all these places they're putting up.
They're all being bought by overseas money.
Isn't that bad?
A lot of it's Chinese, some of it's Russian. It's only in this one I've told you about in Manchester, Number 1 Cambridge Street. Only 2 of the homes are lived in by British owners.
Right.
The apparent lack of owner-occupiers is in contrast to the impression the developer gave in its planning application to Manchester City Council in 2014. I'm not blaming the developers. They can't say who's going to buy them at the end of the day. You know what I mean?
But they know what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. They're building a load of buildings because they know that overseas investors want to buy into Britain.
That's right. But the result of it is this. Foreign ownership appears to be making homes less affordable. House prices in Manchester, based on this one development alone, have risen by almost 10% in 1 year.
Yeah.
The fastest rise in the UK. Average prices in the city are now 9 times average earnings. So the story goes on around the country, you know.
Yeah, I know, and I don't think it's not healthy for the general economy, and it's not healthy really for the because eventually the bottom will fall out of it. I know people keep saying that, and it keeps not happening.
Yeah,
but eventually, presumably, it will.
Well,
when all of these foreign investors decide, well, you know what, we haven't got a rental market anymore. We're not going to rent them to anyone, so we'll just have to sell them.
Well, I'm not sure when that moment will come.
No,
Inward investment is a great thing for any country. If other countries in the world invest in your country...
It is if it stimulates growth.
Yes, that's right.
This is not stimulating growth. All it's stimulating is growth in the housing market, which people can't afford already.
I agree.
So there's something wrong with it, really.
And George Osborne came along and decided, I'm going to take the heat out of the housing market so more people locally can afford to live in them.
Yes.
Not that it bothers him, because he's so wealthy anyway, It doesn't matter. But that's not. It's not had that effect at all. I said to these guys, why are people still buying them when the very minimum you pay in stamp duty now on a property this price is $7,500?
And who are these people anyway? Are they foreign corporations? Are they foreign individuals?
Nearly all the ones I'm talking about have been bought by concerns in Hong Kong.
Okay.
The ones
businesses rather than individuals.
Sorry, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Now, I've got some interesting info here from Trevor.
Oh,
you
yes?
may be able to tell me whether it's correct.
Right.
It says King's School Chester is totally fee-paying, no government cash aid. Labour abolished all direct grant schools in 1976.
Yeah, but I think you'll find there are still bursaries and all that kind of stuff,
He goes on to say King's School Chester's exam results are very poor compared to other fee-paying schools, poorer than even some comprehensive schools.
No, that's rubbish. That's rubbish. In fact, I was talking to people there. The current headmaster, who is leaving soon to be replaced by another one.
Well, who told you this? Mr. What's-his-face?
Mr. Hopkinson.
Mr. Hopkinson.
The alumni.
The alumni.
Yeah. He
he
said that the current headmaster had actually re-established the school as one of the top in the country on exam results. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Here's one from Sharky. Rory McIlroy was going to play golf in Rio for Ireland, not GB and Northern Ireland, until he pulled out in fear for his health. Well, no, we told you that already. Rory McIlroy was going to play golf for Ireland.
Yeah.
But it was quite a controversial decision that he made, since technically he is British.
Yes, that's right.
And he should have been playing for Team GB.
Yes.
And the reason he played for Ireland was really kind of mooted by some to suggest that he was in favour of United Ireland, which I think is why in the end he pulled out.
Yeah, I think he did, yeah.
He didn't fear for his health.
No,
he just feared for a lot of controversy.
It was a no-win situation.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Exactly right. And also, I don't think there was much of a choice to be made once they saw how awful some of the facilities were in Brazil.
That's right. Now, we're going to be talking to somebody from the Cayman Islands this week, aren't we, about the Cornish connection, yeah?
Oh, yes, we are.
Yes.
Well, we haven't got anybody lined up yet, but we'll see
we'll
see if we can find somebody.
There's that chap called Bodden from Cornwall who went out to the Cayman Islands, and now the Cayman Islands think that they have an umbilical cord with the Cornish.
Yes, and they're going to try and get some money out of them, right?
Well, it'd be the other way around. It'd be Cornwall get money out of the Cayman Islands because it's a very wealthy place,
well,
isn't it?
That's what I mean, yeah. That's what I mean.
Yeah,
well, we shall see. It's not going to be that easy, but we'll see if we can get hold of somebody over there. We are also going to be talking to your man at Yale University this week, we hope.
Yes.
Who's going to be telling us why drinking an awful lot of wine is actually good for you.
Yes, that's a good thing. Talking about drink, by the way.
We've seen the time.
Yeah, don't worry about that for a minute. Talking about drink, I see that the Shadow Health Secretary, John Ashworth, is going to run the London...
is he.
Hey?
Is he.
Yeah. He's going to run the London Marathon for the first time. Now,
good.
He says he's going to do it to raise funds for the... it's an odd organisation, this. The National Association for Children of Alcoholics.
Well, why is that an odd association?
Well, I just think that, what a strange sort of organisation that has to be set up to look after the children of alcoholics.
Well, I'm sure if you're the child of an alcoholic, it can't be very much fun.
Well, I agree. He told the Leicester Mercury, a famous newspaper, of course, from our newspaper days, that his casino croupier dad often fell over drunkenly at the school gates, and he came to pick him up from school.
Well, why are you laughing at this?
Well, I mean, it's stories about drunks.
It's a sort of comedy story about drugs, but it's actually quite a tragic story.
It is very tragic. He says, my dad often fell over drunkenly at the school gates, and my one abiding memory of childhood is that the fridge was always full of cheap white wine and cans of lager, but never had any food in it.
Well, I don't understand why you find it so funny.
No. Anyway, Ashworth says his father spent his latter days drinking at least a bottle of whiskey a day and had died when he was 60.
Why are you laughing at that?
Well, I'm not really laughing.
Well, you are laughing.
No, I'm
not.
That's
what people find disgraceful.
No. I mean, look, it's a huge problem, alcohol in our society.
But you seem to find it all very amusing.
No, I don't think it's amusing at all. I think it's pitiful.
Yeah.
And I have great sympathy and enormous.
Well, as long as you've got that, you'll be all right then.
Enormous, hurt that these poor poor children suffer.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Well, maybe you could send them some money.
Well, you know, we must think
Or
about...
donate them some free Rooney Tunes books or something.
Yeah, well, that's a good idea.
Why
yeah.
not, indeed?
That would help them.
And good luck with the marathon,
They
Mr. Shadow Minister.
They could hit their dad with a Rooney Tune book if he was too drunk and
Very carefully.
incapable of standing at the school gates.
Exactly. Coming up next, we're going to
Can't
ask
really believe
Porky.
that, can you?
No, you can't.
You know, your old fellow falling over at the school gate. Oh.
Nothing in the world could bother me, 'cause I was living in a world of ecstasy. But now you're gone, I'm just a daydreamer. I'm walking in the rain, chasing after rainbows I may never find again. Life is much too beautiful, so live it
What are you playing this rubbish for?
Right, do you know who this is?
Yeah, David Cassidy.
It's David Cassidy,
Yes.
who is amazingly 67 years of age
67,
today.
is he really?
67,
My
David
goodness me.
Cassidy.
That is old,
I
isn't
tell
it?
you what, honest to God, when I worked on the Chester Chronicle, it's a few years back now.
That certainly is. About 67 years
Yeah,
ago.
it is actually, yeah. And the two heartthrobs for, you know, pubescent young ladies were Donny Osmond
Yes.
and David Cassidy. David Cassidy.
Although
And-
Donny Osmond's not quite that old, is he?
Well, Donny Osmond was only 14 in those days,
Yeah.
but he was still an internationally famous worldwide singer. David Cassidy was about 10 years older, but still like the teeny boppers, you know, hero and
Well,
all
he
that.
was in the Partridge Family,
He was in the Partridge
which I
Family.
remember watching.
Da, 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 da,
You know, the thing that I remember most about the Partridge Family
Yeah.
was the guy, Mr. Kincaid,
Yeah.
who slept with the visor over his face.
Did he?
You know.
Why?
Well, that was the thing that I found fascinating as a child.
Yes.
Because I presumed it kept the light out. You know, it was the
Oh,
first
yeah.
time I'd ever seen anyone
Who was
wearing
he
effectively.
then?
Mr.
Shirley
Kincaid.
Jones was the matriarch of the
Well,
family.
Mr. Kincaid was like the manager, I think.
Oh, was he the manager? I see.
And
Yeah,
so
okay.
he would occasionally come into the house.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the thing that fascinated me about him was every time you'd see him in his own bed,
Yes.
he had this kind of, Lone Ranger style mask on,
Really?
except without any eye holes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because
yeah.
he didn't want, because some people use sleep with those. Have you
Yes,
never
they
seen
do.
people
Yes,
do that?
yeah, like on aeroplanes and things.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, what was so fascinating was, I mean, he was such a huge hero, David Cassidy. He landed at Heathrow once, and
Yeah.
it was in the days when security wasn't really all that, important.
Well, there wasn't any, right?
No, and they pushed the stairs up to the aeroplane, and Dave Cassidy came off. But somebody hadn't told him that he was doing a live interview the minute he got to the bottom of the stairs. And he hadn't got any makeup on,
Right.
and his face was incredibly pimply. His
Really?
skin was very poor,
Yeah, right.
And everybody commented on it the next day in the papers.
Huh.
But anyway, I'm afraid
bit
that
unfair.
it went a bit downhill for David once the teeny bopper days were over.
Right.
How many times have been done for drunk driving? Is it 3?
3 or 4, yeah.
I think so, yeah.
It's a shame, really.
And he was on stage recently somewhere in
But he
America,
still
and
I
he
mean,
fell off the stage.
Yeah,
and all
but he
this kind of
doesn't
stuff.
do anything other than just sing, does he? He didn't even get into acting particularly, apart from the Partridge Family. I mean, he never really did any.
No.
music.
No, he was a teeny bopper pop idol, you
Yeah.
know, and that was it. And I think when that
Well,
era
that must
came
be a
and
bit.
went...
That must be a bit difficult to kind of, think
Well-
of yourself as that's your entire life. That's
Well,
what
Donny
you do.
Osmond's done very well at it because he still does things like, guest DJ slots on radio
Yeah.
stations and that kind of stuff.
And also, they were very successful in doing like the Vegas shows. And
Yes,
all that
that's
kind of
right.
thing.
Yeah,
The
they were,
Osmonds
yeah.
still doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they were still doing shows. I mean, they may
Yeah, they
still be
were.
doing them now. I don't know.
I went to an Osmond show once to review it for the Birmingham Mail.
Did you?
And it was just after Donny Osmond. Oh, it's pathetic, this. It was just after Donny Osmond and his wife had their first child.
Oh, yeah.
And all Donny Osmond kept doing during the whole of the show was doing things like somebody gave him a fake gun,
Yeah.
it went bang, and then a piece of cloth came out.
That said bang on it.
Unrolled, and it had the name of his new baby on it.
Ah.
And then he would do things like suddenly take his jacket off, turn round,
Yeah.
and the name of his new baby was written on the back of his shirt,
Right.
and all
dear.
those kind of things.
Bizarre.
Yeah.
I had to go to a Donny and Marie Osmond concert once
Right, yeah.
for the Star.
Oh, she
magazine.
was in the concert I went to.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it was their
Yeah.
sort of first concert back together
Oh, I
for a
see.
long time, and
Yeah.
it was and they'd banned the press or something like that, and
Yeah.
I was sent there by Star magazine, and so I had to we had to smuggle a camera in,
Right, yeah.
to take pictures,
Yeah.
and because it was those days of film, the guy was taking pictures and handing me the film.
That's right.
and I was like smuggling it into my pocket.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
at one point, much to my horror,
Yeah.
she came off the stage and started walking through. It was like tables,
Yes.
started walking through,
Yeah.
and trying to get somebody to go up on stage, and she picked me.
No.
She picked me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't do it.
Yes.
And the light's shining on me, and she's like, come on, honey, you come up on stage. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Yeah.
And eventually, because she just wouldn't stop, I whispered in her ear, I said, look, I'm here from Star Magazine. You really don't want me up there, okay?
Yeah.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, he's not going to do it. And then
Yeah.
she walked off, and then they had me thrown out.
Oh, I see. Yeah, exactly. I can imagine why.
But it was good, though.
It was good. When I worked, as I say, on the Chester Chronicle,
Yeah.
there were an awful lot of squaddies in Chester in those days, because there was a
big
place,
barracks.
Well, Sorgal Army Camp was a holding camp for
Okay.
soldiers coming back from Northern Ireland to reintegrate them back into sort of Britain. You know what I mean?
Is that not there anymore then?
No, it's not. It's a housing estate now,
Right.
and they caused terrible trouble in the town. The squaddies, because they came back and they hadn't
Well, they're like
had
fighting, don't they?
Well, they hadn't had drink for 6 months, so they went completely bonkers on drink and got themselves arrested and all that kind of stuff. But the one thing was, I don't know why, but squaddy soldiers themselves they attract the very sort of most basic women in society.
Well, certainly there are some parts of I think Andover was a town a bit like that off the Salisbury Plain.
Yeah, that's right.
And there was some pretty rough pubs there and some pretty nasty things.
Yeah,
going on.
and I don't wish to be rude to womenhood and all that, but I'm afraid that young impressionable girls aged about 17. Are massively attracted to drunken squaddies flashing their money around because they haven't spent any for 6 months.
Well, they're also physically very fit.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they
are.
There's
a part of that is part of the thing.
And they like punching each other up if they can't find anybody else to punch up, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the reason I mentioned David Cassidy was, he was such a hero, and these squaddies couldn't get David Cassidy at all.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if they were in a pub with a jukebox and all these young ladies were putting on, they smashed the jukebox up rather than listen to David Cassidy, because it used to drive them mad.
How bizarre. Now, how about this from Steve? Says, does Porky not realise that trying to put the world to rights just makes you a target? And Smoggy Aussie says that he was in the hospital due to a serious asthma attack.
Oh.
And he says he doesn't understand Twitter. He's using his wife's Twitter, so he's not actually Janice.
Okay.
That's his missus. But,
well,
but he's the guy that wanted to thank all the people in the hospital.
Well, thank you to the people in the hospital, and thank you as well for informing us, and we hope you get better and don't have a recurrent attack ever again.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Now, Andy in the Peak says, you call yourself totally apolitical after that rant, Porky.
Yes.
It was more paralytical. Sorry, but Nelson's pegged out.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but anybody who sells our country down the river by not providing proper defences is, to my view, an unworthy politician.
Now, have you seen this story about Ryan Giggs and his divorce claim, by the way?
No.
In the papers this morning, apparently he's going to have to do something rather odd, right?
Yeah.
He's going to have to claim in the divorce battle that he's currently having with his estranged wife Stacey,
yes,
right? Which is probably not one that you'd be surprised about. Right?
No.
He's going to say that he made a special contribution to the marriage. Not that she has to say that.
What was it? Romancing other ladies?
Well, I think that's very unfair. No, I think what he's going to be saying
is... Well, I think there's plenty of evidence that happened, isn't there?
Well, there is. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But but she's obviously after quite a bit of his money.
Yes.
Okay, now she's going to... Now, normally...
Well, I don't blame her. He's got a lot of money.
Well, hang on. What, you're now taking her side, are you?
I'm not taking her side. What I'm saying is, when unisons break up, I'm afraid that you do have to be very civilised about how you share out the spoils.
Yeah, well, the point is that during the sharing out of the spoils, you would normally expect the wife to come along with a very high-priced lawyer to say, I am largely responsible for him being able to, devote so much time to his work that he was able to make all this money.
Yes.
Therefore, I made a special contribution. But in this case, it's him that's going to have to be saying that.
Right.
And in order for him not to have to give away 50% or more of his money.
Well, he's going to have to say that I made the major contribution to the marriage.
So he's going to call it a special contribution to the marriage.
Really?
Isn't that weird? I think that's quite strange.
Is that some sort of new tactic by some divorce lawyer or something like that?
It is.
Yeah,
it's been called a genius manoeuvre.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time it's ever been done.
Oh, right.
By the guy who's got the money. Because normally what happens is it's the woman who gets a very, very good lawyer to say
Indeed.
that the wife, enabled him to make all this money.
Indeed.
But he's going to say, actually, no, he was the one that actually made the special contribution. I think it's quite an interesting scenario.
Very interesting indeed. Talking about stars and money and all that, did you see a story that broke today about Ed Sheeran?
Ed Sheeran.
Sheeran.
Yes, I did.
Have you seen that?
Well, I want to talk to old, what's his face about that?
Yeah, we certainly do. I mean, we're talking here about
Sandro Minetti.
£16 million in a settlement, is what I was listening to, for allegations of...
plagiarism.
Copying musical notes.
Well, I mean, the song that he is accused of copying is something that was written, I think, for a guy who won the X Factor.
That's right.
And if you listen to the two songs, which I'm hoping we'll be
able
to do
similar.
very shortly, they do sound similar.
I listened to them both.
But the trouble is, I listened to them both as well. And you know what? My ear was not attuned to it because I didn't like either of them.
I didn't like either of them. They didn't sound like a normal song to me.
No.
It sounded like something that was manufactured
to
try and fit the words into a couple of chords.
Yeah.
It didn't sound like the start of, some great record like a Queen record, We Will Rock You or something like that, or a Beatles record or even an ABBA record. It didn't sound like that at all.
No. And it sounded the vocal was very similar.
Yes.
But I'm not a big fan of Ed Sheeran. I've got a couple of his songs, but to me, he's kind of someone that is sort of wallpaper music, It doesn't really do anything for me.
Do you know what? I've read so much about him, about being such a nice guy, and everybody likes him, and he's very popular. People want him at their parties and all that kind of stuff. So I listened to a couple of Ed Sheeran tracks, and I have to say I couldn't make head nor tail of them.
No.
They just didn't sound like great songs to me.
But it's a £16 million copyright infringement lawsuit, right? And, and basically they've settled it out of court. The Hollywood Reporter was saying they've settled it out of court in California.
Yeah.
However, they haven't actually told us what the terms of the settlement are.
But it is £16 million that he's had to pay out. Is that
I
right?
don't know.
No, we don't know.
The lawsuit was filed on the basis that the guys they wanted $20 million.
Right,
which is like $16 million. Okay. And their lawyer said, I can confirm the case is settled but cannot comment further.
Yes.
And also, Sheeran's publicists at Atlantic Records haven't said anything either.
Yeah, right.
But it's all interesting stuff. This, but I'm sure Sandra Minetti will have something to say about it because we've got him coming up very, very shortly.
Definitely. Now I've got some more bad news for you.
Have you?
It's all bad news night tonight.
Why is it bad news? There hasn't been any bad news so far. I was thinking we've all been given good news, apart from the ships that you got a bit worked up about.
Well, I got worked up about the ships. You won't believe it, but Cambridge, right, the city.
Cambridge.
Yeah, traffic moves there even slower now than it does in London because of bike lanes.
Yes.
And we've seen how slow the traffic moves in London because of bike lanes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crawls at 4 miles an hour.
Yeah.
It took us 40 minutes to get across the bridge one time when we went to do that job at the hairdressers, right?
Yeah.
So
but it's not just because of the bike lanes, it's because of all the roadworks. I mean, I came in tonight and they've created yet another what do you call it? A fake traffic light.
Yes.
Temporary traffic light.
Yeah.
In one of the roads that I've been down. Now, they've only just had a temporary traffic light removed from that road. Now they've put one back on it again.
Yes.
Absolutely ridiculous.
It's an absolute disgrace. Now, I have said persistently, you would agree, over the last 2 or 3 years, when I'm talking about these bike lanes, when I'm talking about traffic congestion, I always say, listen, folks, I'm sorry this is coming from London-centric TalkSport radio
you do always say that.
studio.
I will give you that.
But it will hit your town one of these days. Well, guess which towns it's hitting now?
Well, you said Cambridge.
Cambridge, Hereford, Ely, Wolverhampton, Leicester, Norwich, Coventry, Bath and Oxford are the top 10 towns where traffic has slowed down due to cycle lanes.
I presume, as I told you when you were standing in King's School, Chester, by the sign. In fact, we still haven't really talked about all that. Yeah. But there's a great big cycle lane.
That's right, there is, yeah.
So I presume that's a new thing there in Chester. Did they have many cycle lanes in Chester when you were there?
I didn't see a lot. Fortunately, I didn't see a lot. But then a lot of it's in the centre now is pedestrianised anyway.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, cobbled streets and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Taxis can go in there, buses can go in there, but none of the traffic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent stuff.
Yeah.
It's been quite a serious show so far, so
Certainly
I'm delighted to say that this is kind of cheering up the mood a little bit. Great song, actually, I have to say. Haven't heard that for a long time.
Yeah, well, that's the Jacksons as opposed to Michael Jackson, okay?
Right.
Now, the
reason... blame it on the sunshine.
Yeah,
blame it on the boogie.
Blame it on the boogie, that's right. Now, the reason that I'm playing that is because, the reason we're playing that is because, believe it or not, the Jacksons are coming to tour Britain.
Are they?
And one of the places they're going is the Pavilion Theatre in Bournemouth.
Oh, right.
Where we once offered a live show.
Yes, indeed. And in fact, I was only down in Bournemouth just the other day.
Right, of course you were. Yeah, that's right, yeah. Now, the point is that ahead of this, of course, a lot of the Jacksons brothers will be talking.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that how they sort of try and marry up their failed careers with Michael Jackson's spectacular career.
I mean, Michael Jackson at the time when he died, was he not rehearsing to do a massive tour with the rest of his brothers?
Well, you see, this is very interesting because what's happened is I've read a piece here which Jackie Jackson, who's one of the brothers, wrote. Yeah. The brothers are Jackie, Marlon, Tito, and Jermaine.
Jermaine was the one that was going to sue me for 28 million quid.
That's right, yeah.
But he never did.
Yeah, well, Sony were going to sue us for 50 million when I rewrote the words of a Michael Jackson song for a bit of a laugh, and Sony in America didn't think it was very funny. Yeah. Anyway, the point of the story is... Yeah. This is Jackie's version. He says, I was on the Las Vegas Strip when a passerby blurted out the words, I hear Michael Jackson has died. I had a hat on and glasses. I'm the eldest Jackson brother, and I didn't really want anybody to know who I was. So I kept walking, thinking that I must have misheard, and then I heard more and more people saying, Michael Jackson has died.
Right.
He said, the third time I heard it, I fell to the ground.
As he was walking down the road?
Well, he just got back into the Venetian Hotel, where I've stayed, actually. It's a lovely hotel, yeah. Right. He said, I couldn't even walk, my legs were like jelly.
Is that the one with the gondola?
Yes, it is, yes, that's right, yeah. My legs were like jelly. And then he goes on to say, Michael's death was a personal tragedy for Jackie, who maintains that the Jacksons were always a tight-knit family. And not everybody's sure that is absolutely...
I'm not sure that is correct.
True. But he goes on to say, this is where it all a bit strange. It was a professional blow. When Michael overdosed on a surgical anaesthetic in June 2009, he was rehearsing for a 50-date run at the O2 in London. Now, we knew about that.
Yes, we did.
And we knew that he looked terribly thin in rehearsals and all that kind of stuff.
Because he'd become addicted to a whole series of what would appear to be completely legal drugs. Prescription drugs.
That's right, yeah. And nobody was very sure whether he'd ever get through, even the first 10, let alone 50 and all that kind of stuff. Right. However, according to Jackie, the real tragedy is that he was going to do the 50 shows on his own, but then that was only a warm-up for the fact that he was going to then reunite with the rest of the Jackson brothers.
Right.
They were going to become the Jackson 5, and they were going to tour the world for the first time in 25 years.
And what about the girls? What about, like, Janet?
Well, I don't think they were included in the original group, and they wouldn't have been part of it.
Yeah, right.
But the point is, the reason this is all so contradictory is that actually, if you read a lot about what happened in the Jackson family in the years before Michael Jackson died, he wasn't going towards his brothers, he was running away from them.
He was, yeah.
Because he had a special room, at Neverland, where he literally bolted and locked himself in whenever his brothers came calling and told the housekeeper he wasn't there. Because the problem with the Jacksons...
Which they knew, of course, he was, because he didn't ever go anywhere.
He didn't go anywhere,
it's difficult to go, look, where's Michael?
Yeah.
He's not here.
He's not here,
Well, no, he's always here. Yeah. He's got a whole, circus in the gardens. He doesn't ever go out.
Not only that, but if he does go out, usually about 50 million people would spot him, if you see what I mean. Yeah, so he hasn't actually gone out.
Do you remember that, was it, I don't know if it was a documentary, but there was a film made, or at least a report, and he went out shopping with, like, sort of Elizabeth Taylor. And all these shops.
On Rodeo Drive.
Yeah, something like that. It was just bizarre.
Yeah, I did see
all the shops had to be closed for him, and he had to be able to shop on his own.
Well, if he ever went to a public facility like a cinema or a fairground, and as well as his own, they had to shut the whole thing, and he had it all to himself. But anyway, the point I was going to say is that once he left and went and became a solo artist, the brothers were actually completely beached.
Yeah.
And so what happened was he came under pressure from his parents about every 2 or 3 years.
And also his father wasn't a very nice guy,
No, his father wasn't a really nice guy. And his father, of course, was on percentages of everything when they were kids and all that.
Right.
But he came under pressure from them saying, the boys, they're really suffering now. They're down to their last Ferrari. They're down to their last sort of $2 million house. Why don't you go on tour with them?
Yeah.
And the only reason to go on tour was not because artistically it was a great step forward. It's because the brothers had run out of dosh.
Yes.
And they needed some more.
And he did have an enormous amount of money.
Well, not only that, but he had enormous appeal. So if the Jackson brothers, by the way, just to illustrate, how they weren't quite in the same stratosphere as their brother Michael, they are appearing at the Glynde in East Sussex, the Greenwich Music Time in London, and the Pavilion Theatre in Bournemouth.
So it's not a massive tour.
Well,
it's not like they did 7 nights at the O2.
No, exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying.
What was he doing 15 nights at the O2?
50,
right?
50, yeah. But the point I'm making is that if the brothers suddenly announced that they were doing, say, the Hollywood Bowl as the 4 Jackson brothers, they would sell about 15 tickets.
Yeah.
If they announced they were doing the Hollywood Bowl with Michael Jackson, they would sell out 10 nights on
for a year.
For a year and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
so
we've got a very small amount of experience now in this area, haven't we, in terms of booking theatres and
we have,
shows and all that, and we may have some news on that coming up in the next few weeks as far as where we're going to be playing is concerned.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's incredible how many acts that have previously been huge are suddenly no longer and just can't even sustain a tour.
Well, there's another quote here. I'm sorry.
Didn't Geldof have to cancel his tour?
Geldof, I read that Bob Geldof cancelled 3 theatres in the north where he couldn't sell the tickets.
Right.
And I also read that the boys who got together... Sorry, did you mention this? When Will I Be Famous? When will I be famous?
Yeah. I know the song.
Dancing. Yeah, Luke and Goss, Matt Goss.
Oh, the Goss brothers.
The Goss brothers, What were they called? Bros, that's it. Bros.
They went bankrupt though. One of them went bankrupt. So I remember covering the case.
Yeah, but then when they tried to come back, the only one they sold was like a major city one. They had to cancel all the others.
Well, I remember when I was in Scotland, there was a guy from Blue, the band Blue, like a boy band.
I think that was Wayne Rooney's favourite band, actually.
Duncan somebody, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Was thrown out of a nightclub because of the fact that he turned up late for his appearance that he was meant to be doing.
Yes.
And was completely sort of incapable of making the appearance, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure.
But the most shocking thing was to me that he was only getting paid 300 quid for it.
For an appearance?
Yeah, 300 quid.
Good God.
And I thought,
amazing,
blimey, I mean, 2 years earlier, you wouldn't have got the band for like 20,000.
No, exactly.
But he was in some dodgy Edinburgh nightclub for 300 quid.
It's unbelievable. Jackie says, anyway, talking about the forthcoming tour, Jackie. He says, hey, as long as Mick Jagger's still doing it, we're going to keep doing it.
Yeah, the difference is Mick Jagger's doing it in stadiums.
Yeah, somebody points
for
out...
$1 million a night.
Exactly. somebody points out, this is not an exact analogy.
Right.
The Rolling Stones still have Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, whereas the Jacksons without Michael are actually not even a proposition.
No.
There's no point pretending differently, so they don't. They performed the ballad "I'll Be There," the Jackson 5's most successful single. Even that wasn't theirs, was it? That was.
No, "I'll Be There" was. I'm pretty sure that was their song.
Wasn't it the Four Tops originally?
Well, you may be right. I think it was. I think it was covered by a couple of people. I think they did write it though.
Okay, that's fine. And they do it. This is another incredible thing. They do it in front of a giant image of Michael Jackson. And he says he gets very emotional. But why
I bet it does.
Yeah, why have they got to have a...
They're very emotional about the fact that they can't get more money out of him. It's an absolute shocking state of affairs. There's only so much you could wring out of a dead rock star.
Yeah, exactly.
Pop star.
Exactly.
Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable.
It says, Michael achieved such stratospheric worldwide fame that his family are now forced to live with his presence wherever they want to or not. Whenever I drive down the strip, all of a sudden, the big old billboard truck with his face is right there, driving around in front of me. Yeah. If I get into a cab, it's got a picture of Michael Jackson in it. He never goes away. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing, isn't it, the amount of influence that man had.
It really is,
when we were there in the 80s and he was called the King of Pop. Do you remember he went to one place to do a concert, somewhere like Atlanta or something, and the local police chief allocated 50 officers as a personal bodyguard to Michael Jackson. Yeah. They were that concerned that nothing would go wrong while he was in town.
Oh, he was incredible.
And these 50 cops had to sit around in the lobby of hotels whenever Michael Jackson was in his room and never go anywhere. Right. They were allocated to Michael Jackson.
And the journalists were all over the place. There was long lenses, pokes everywhere.
That's
there was
right,
people trying to get into the hotel and get onto the same floor. I mean, it was absolute madness. Incredible. Twitter for the link. You can watch it through that, or you can watch it, of course, through Facebook Live, which is where it is. We've got loads and loads of great questions, as ever. I would ask you, please, Mr. Parry, to be as authoritative but as brief as you possibly can be.
Do you mean concise? You don't mean brief, do you? I'm not going to be
concise.
I'm not going to be brief and butt people off. I'm going to be concise.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's see. This is from Enzo in New Jersey. He says, Sir Porky, you have accomplished a lot in life so far. What's the one thing you want to accomplish before you kick the bucket?
I never think about kicking the bucket. You've got to live each day as it comes. And I'll be perfectly honest, when I see people with these, they're called bucket lists, when people want to do things before they die.
That's right.
I just feel they're a waste of time, to be honest, because most of what I wanted to do when I was a youngster, I've done in life, crossing the Atlantic on the QE2, flying the Concorde, romancing beautiful women and, seeking powerful jobs in powerful places and all that kind of stuff. So I don't have... there's nothing in the world I want to do now that
you haven't done.
No, I haven't done. I mean, you'd like to, do something extraordinary like play football at Wembley, but that's unrealistic.
I've already done that.
Yeah, I know you have. Yeah, the things that I really wanted to achieve in life, I've achieved. I'm pretty happy with my life, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about this from Jamie? I've just had a baby girl on Monday the 10th called Emily Rose.
Emily,
could you please say hello to her and my beautiful wife Danielle? And what is the best advice you could give me as a first-time dad? And that's Jamie, who's in Perth, Australia.
Yeah. Okay. Great to hear from you, Jamie. Is it? Yeah, in Perth, Australia. Congratulations on being a parent for the first time. I'm at a bit of a strange one on this one because I've never been a parent. But all I can say is this: is that we had a chap on last week saying, bladderation or attention to detail with the child. It's always got to be a child's got to be your first consideration now. If you bring a person into the world, then you've got to devote your life to their upbringing. And all I can say is, just do the very best you can, and then nobody can blame you, however it turns out.
OK, here's one from Ali. He says, I know how much Porky likes cats, so here's a cat question. We have 4 and have just moved house. They aren't getting on anymore. Would you thin the herd or give them a little more bonding time?
You've got 4 cats?
4 cats, yeah.
It doesn't turn me on at all. I'm sorry, I just don't get on with cats at all. I couldn't live in a house with 1 cat, let alone 4. So I'm afraid that I'm not on your side here. I'd get rid of all of them. But I would get rid of them humanely. I don't want you to put them in a bag and throw them in the canal or anything like that.
When you say humanely,
yes.
I mean, I don't think you're looking to kill them off.
No, you give them to Battersea Cat's Home.
Battersea Cat's Home, OK.
Yeah.
Porky says, Craig, at the ripe old age of 37, I'm thinking of a change of career. Is this too late in life to do, or should I plod on doing something I don't enjoy, or should I go for it?
Well, you should never be plodding on doing something you don't enjoy, because that's a waste of your life. If you get up in the morning and you go to a deadbeat job that you don't like, and you come home at night miserable from the experience of the last 8 or 9 hours, you are literally wasting your life. You've got to find something in life that stimulates your interest every day. Every time I get up and come to work here, I bounce out of bed with anticipation at what I'm going to be doing, because I like so much doing what I do. I'm a very, very lucky man. But everybody's got to try and seek that position. And if you're working in something you don't enjoy, I would just stop it and take a challenge and take a risk and go for it and try and find something you do like.
Now, Mark says this without giving away too much.
Yeah.
He says, as MG's naval intelligence source, can you tell me what you think of the government's decision to sell HMS Ocean, our helicopter carrier and flagship, to the Brazilian Navy?
Yes,
we can't keep retiring and selling our ships. We only have 3.5 left. Was the Commodore involved in this decision?
No, Commodore wasn't. But, I mean, I saw that documentary, or saw bits of that documentary on Ocean. It's an old leaking hull. I mean, it's embarrassing. I hope nobody overseas has seen that, because if they did, they'll invade. Because it's such a terribly tawdry sort of documentary on the strength of the Royal Navy. It was embarrassing. And yeah, get rid of it. It's a wreck of an old ship. We've got the 2 new carriers coming in, but they're steeped in controversy about the state they're in and no planes. It's a mess.
It's terrible. Nicola says this, Dear Porky, if you had to leave the Earth on a spaceship and take 4 famous people with you, who would they be?
Golly, that's amazing. Live or dead. First one would be Rod Stewart, because then we'd always have a song. Second one would be Dixie Dean, so I could talk to him forever about his exploits in football. Third one would be Admiral Horatio Lord Nelson, and the fourth one would be John Lennon.
Well,
Sorry for that. Sorry?
Well, no women.
Well, there'd be women on board too. I mean, if you got Rod Stewart on board a spaceship, you'd have to have some women there as well.
Well, I would have thought so.
Because although he's a very loyal husband, of course, he has obviously throughout his life enjoyed the presence of female company.
He's been a very loyal husband several times, hasn't he?
Yes.
The Verminator says this, as an Arsenal fan, my semi-final tickets are in my hand. Should I throw them in the skip, burn them, give them away, or carry on supporting them?
As a fan of who?
Arsenal.
Arsenal fan. Well, you've got to support your team. Whatever happens, you know, you go through bad times and good times. The only problem with Arsenal is, and it's such a boring subject now because nobody ever stops talking about it, is that something needs to be done. It doesn't like something is going to be done. So it's an interminable problem, and it is hugely frustrating to you Arsenal fans.
Here's one from Jason. He says, Porky, at my local supermarket, they have one of those 10 items only lanes. This supermarket law is regularly flouted. Who should be enforcing this law? And am I right to be upset?
I think it's a question of compromise there. I always use that lane because I don't buy much when I go to the supermarkets, particularly if I'm not in my car, because I don't like lugging things around. However, how do you define 10 items? For instance, if I take a bowl of easy peeler tangerines, and
easy peeler,
yeah, and there's 8 of them in the literally in the orange bag, right? Do they qualify as 1 goods or 8?
Well, I would say if it's pre-packed, I would call that 1. If you've packed it,
I would as well.
It's probably more than 7.
But then I remember getting there once with 10, and the lady on the desk said, "Oh, that's a 2-for-1 offer." I said, "Oh, thanks." So I went away and got the other one, came back at 11. She wouldn't let me then use that till.
That's a bit harsh.
Yeah, it was a bit harsh, yeah.
Shocking.
Yeah, I'd say it's a matter of degrees and negotiation with the lady on the till.
All right. Here's one from Wardy who says, is it too late to have Sam Allardyce back as England boss?
Well, it wouldn't be for me because I would still, think that he's got the qualities to do it. But it is too late for the profession of football because Sam left under such extraordinary circumstances, which a lot of people think were completely unjustified. It would be hard, A, for him to ever trust the FA again, and hard for the FA to ever put themselves in the position where they would be reminded constantly of what was really a terribly messy end to an England manager's career.
Now, I've got a nice picture here from Paul. It's not really a question. He says, it was a pleasure to bump into fellow Cestrian Porky Parry on our city's fine streets on Sunday afternoon.
Oh, yes.
Nice one, Mike. And there he is there. Meeting that guy?
Yes, of course I do, because obviously I had my picture taken with him. Very nice chap indeed.
That doesn't mean you remember it.
Came out to see me. No, I do.
His name is Paul.
Paul, it's good to hear from you. Thank you very much indeed.
Here's one from Mark, which is right up your street, actually, because you've got lots of experience in this.
Okay.
Porky, what is the best and nicest way to end a relationship?
Well, amicably, you hope, but I mean, it doesn't always end amicably, does it? I've had some rather difficult ends to relationships, particularly when...
Say that again.
When, yes...
Especially after you proposed to them.
Well, let's say, yeah, well, they were just a bit of a mistake, really, and that kind of stuff. But I've had some where, you know, there was an assumption it was moving towards matrimony, and then I had to put the brake on it, and it didn't, and people get bitter and offended and hurt and wounded, and, you know, it's a terrible situation, and I always hated myself for... distressing anybody else in that sort of situation. But I can honestly say I never at any time led anybody up the garden path that it was going to end up in matrimony, because I never thought it would. Ben
says this: my team leader is moving branch office and my fellow workers are getting him a present, but I'm not contributing. Is this wrong?
Well, it depends on your relationship with that person. Don't be a hypocrite. If that guy's done you down, then why should you contribute towards a present for leaving? I think you do that when you admire and respect somebody who's helped you in your career. But if they haven't, then stuff him.
OK, here's one from Gail. Doping is rampant in athletics and sport. Would you be in favour to have criminal charges or jail time for the culprits?
There's an awful lot of discredited reputations around in sport, isn't there? It makes it difficult for a lot of us now to believe that what we're watching is totally above board. I think somebody's got to get a grip of the whole business about doping in sport, because the dopers always seem to be one step ahead of the testers, if you see what I mean. And it requires a lot of medical and professional brain, and somebody's got to sort it sooner than later.
Jay says this: I'm running a marathon and have been abstaining from the devil's buttermilk. After the race, should I over-refresh?
Well, to be honest, I know what you're saying there, and if you're running 26.5 miles, you won't really feel like a drink afterwards, to be honest, because you get so dehydrated that you have to sort of slowly build up, your body fluids again. And drinking 6 pints of lager ain't going to do that. I would say restraint is the order of the day for a good 12 hours after your marathon.
Steve says, what era of the Beatles did you like the best? Clean cut or dirty, filthy, smelly hippie era?
No, I liked the White Album, so that was the penultimate album, wasn't it? Last one was Let It Be, but that was a cutting room's floor job. The last one, purposefully, was Abbey Road, and before that it was the White Album. And I thought the Beatles were at their very, very best then. And, yeah, I suppose it was hippie era, but they were never filthy, were they? They dressed up...
Well, they were quite hairy, I suppose.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they dressed up like people of their age did. Yeah, definitely the White Album.
Here's one from Lisa. Yeah. Can Porky review Countdown on Porky Vision tomorrow? I ask because your favourite food critic, who cannot be named, is in Dictionary Corner this week, entertaining millions with his wit and wisdom.
His wit and wisdom?
Yeah.
Wow, why did he hide that from us when he came onto our show?
Well, he didn't have it with him,
No, he didn't have it on that day.
Yeah.
Look, good luck to him. We all have a job to do, and I wish the man a happy future.
And Stuart says, finally, because this is probably going to be the last one, Dear Porky, my girlfriend Kirsty and I have just finished Peaky Blinders. Loved it. Can you recommend a new box set for us to get stuck into?
Well, if you haven't seen it yet, House of Cards is brilliant, OK? And by the way, on Porky Vision Night, I'll be telling you about the brilliance of Line of Duty. If that's a box set, then get that quick. As for Peaky Blinders, just wait till the next one comes out. It'll be sensational like all the rest were. They are programmes of absolute quality. In fact, quality of drama on TV over the last couple of years has been immense. Really, Happy Valley and Apple Tree Yard and all that. Really, really terrific.
Yes, absolutely right. Well, that
Broadchurch.
That was Ask Porky. We'll have another one at the same time next week. A lot of questions we didn't get to, but fear not.
Yes.
If we didn't get to your question, we may hold them over for next week. But thank you to everyone who sent them in.
Muchas gracias.